Welcome to Everyday Ethics, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful weekend and a fantastic Easter. We have a wonderful show here today with Lady Persephone, and as a reminder, 3:15 p.m. Eastern Time today, we will be starting our new show, Crime, Corrections, and Culture, and we really, really hope you will all join us there. And as for now, Persephone, give us a go around. What's happening? What are we going to talk about today?
We are going to continue our grifter conversation, piggybacking off something that you guys spoke about in the Capitalist Corner, Trump's amazing list of claims about the war.
All right. So, can you read that off for us?
I am going to put them on the screen.
Well, that's very nice of you. Thank you. And by the way, please remember, folks, that we do accept super chats and super stickers. All right, let's put these up here. So, you want me to read them, or are you going to read them? I
mean,
feel like you have the prettier voice.
mm,
I'll do it. I'll do it. It's too much confusion. We're too much in the air. March 3rd, Donald Trump says we won the war. March 7th, we defeated Iran. March 9th, we must attack Iran. March 9th, the war is ending almost completely and very beautifully. March 11th, you never like to say too early you won. We won in the first hour. It was over. March 12th, we did win, but we haven't won completely yet. March 13th, we won the war. March 14th, please help us. March 15th, if you don't help us, I will certainly remember it. March 16th, actually, we don't need any help at all. And I'm not going to go through this entire list because it's utterly ridiculous. But it goes on up until April 4th, where he says Iran must comply immediately. I think he gave a press conference today. I don't know
with the
what he
Easter
said.
Bunny, he gave a press release. Talked about the war, um, while flanked by a man in an Easter Bunny costume, which was
Weird.
just great.
Great.
It
Okay.
really, really great.
So the relevance for the grifter discussion, folks, is remember that contradictions cannot exist in reality. Meaning a thing can't both be and not be at the same time. You can't both have already won the war and are going to be winning it soon. When you come across somebody, I don't care how certain they are, how confident they seem, if they are contradicting themselves, they are not to be trusted. This applies whether it be the President of the United States, your favorite influencer, or your neighborhood grocer. If somebody is telling you contradictory things, sending you inconsistent messages, something is amiss. The red flag should go right up, and you should be aware that something is wrong. What say you, she with the cat eared headphones?
Which make me a very untrustworthy person to
They
take
do
advice
not. They
from.
do not. They do not.
I the whole Trump situation is difficult for me because he is untrustworthy. Nothing that I've never been tempted to believe anything that he says. Even the things that he says that turn out to be true, I'm like, are they really? So it's tough for me because he's just a liar, and to me anybody who doesn't know he's a liar is how? What rock have you been living under? Um and also, I mean, fact check. That's something that we say all the time. Also, you didn't put the bar on the bottom of the screen.
I did. It just disappears.
I
And the
don't
new
believe
one
you.
you sent me doesn't work.
I did a thing. I know what I did.
Yeah. You notice how I did that? Did you like how I did that? Like you found out something that I did wrong, so I just turned it back and said, "Hey, look what you did
Yeah,
wrong."
it was great. I really enjoyed it. Um, yeah.
We're also on Twitch now. So I mean that's the basic lesson is we want to think critically as we approach various influencers, whatever they may be, president, whomever. and apply our critical thinking skills to it. And one sure giveaway is the contradictions that the person is putting out there. But Persephone, if there's no questions about this, and there doesn't seem to be, if you want to get to the topic that you sent me, then you can introduce the topic and we can get to it.
Okay, so is it similar? It's not really similar, but I saw a tweet today that was just insane. So, Michael, if you could put my amazing tweet on the screen. Okay, so you can't it's blocked, but so her bio says author, founder, blah blah. Surname rhymes with bowling, not growling. Okay, so she's basically saying this is how you pronounce my surname. And this person tweeted, imagine being so insecure and desperate for control, you have to specify how your name is pronounced in your Twitter bio. And to me,
I don't think that's what's happening.
that's exactly what's happening.
That's not what the tweet says, though. In that Twitter thing, there's no mention of the surname.
She says in her Twitter bio, she says, author, founder of Lumos and Beerus Palace, surname rhymes with bowling and not growling. It's just covered by the banner.
Oh, I see what's happening here. Okay, so it's this person, Sam, he, him, is commenting on J.K. Rowling.
Yes, Rowling. So she wants her name to be pronounced correctly, which I feel like is not an unreasonable thing to want. And he's framed this as imagine being so insecure and desperate for control that you have to specify how your name is pronounced. And this was just so wild to me because I was like, how are you going to phrase someone saying this is how you pronounce my name? Not even like in a how is that
Okay, Persephone, you are obliterating the context here with this. I'm afraid.
Okay.
So this person has in his bio, he, him.
Yeah.
And J.K. Rowling is known for her criticisms of the transgender folks. And I think that this is part of that. This is a retaliation of some sort for that.
It 100% is.
But then you have to say that. You can't just throw these things out there.
You know, it's almost like I was getting there.
No, you started off with You started off with how it's ridiculous that this person is saying she's insecure to do that. And please with the beeping. But we have to start off it with the context so that people understand what's happening. Hi, Daniel. How are you? Am I to add this to the state? Oh, look at this. $4.99 super sticker from
Thank
Kathy
you,
Cassia.
Kathy.
Thank you
Kathy,
so much.
I'm gonna take that as an endorsement for me and you saying that Michael is mean to me. Okay, so here's a tweet from some random person. This isn't a tweet, this is on Threads, that says, as a reminder, J.K. Rowling has explicitly stated that any money she makes off the new series, any viewership at all, she will see as an endorsement of her anti-trans views and will donate all proceeds to an anti-trans charity she started exclusively to sue trans people with the intended effect of creating legislation that strips us of our rights and freedom, and then you of yours.
Okay.
So that's not true. That claim is false. So she said the any money she makes off the new series is false. So she started the J.K. Rowling's Women's Fund with her own personal money, not Harry Potter proceeds specifically. She explicitly stated she'd see viewership as an endorsement. Not true. She's never said that. An anti-trans charity she started exclusively to sue trans people. Not true. The fund provides legal funding to support cisgender women facing tribunals or challenging legislation around single-sex spaces. It funds legal cases about trans exclusion, not suits targeting trans individuals. With the intended effect of creating legislation that strips us of our rights, that's a characterization of legal strategy, not a documented statement of intent. So the claim is substantively false, and there's like a tiny little bit of truth in there. So, you waving?
No, you said a tiny bit of truth. So I said a tiny bit of truth.
Tiny bit of truth.
I'm with
Okay,
you.
so this yes, a lot of people see her as this person who's like wildly anti-trans, right?
Yeah.
So I asked, what are her stated views about trans people?
Okay.
So here are her stated views. Trans people deserve protection from persecution and violence. The majority of trans people pose no threat to others. She opposes gender self-identification without medical diagnosis. Biological sex is real, immutable, and legally significant. Trans women should not have automatic access to women's single-sex spaces like shelters, prisons, and changing rooms. She's a survivor of domestic abuse and frames her concern about single-sex spaces through that lens. So she founded a sexual assault crisis center that excludes trans women. She donated £70,000 to a Women's Scotland legal challenge, which resulted in the UK Supreme Court ruling that woman under the Equality Act means biological sex, not I identify as woman. And she founded the fund to finance similar legal challenges. She has not anywhere said that trans people shouldn't exist or that trans people shouldn't transition. She's never stated any desire to like hurt people. And her position, as has always been stated by her, is that she doesn't believe that trans woman should just be able to say, I'm a woman, and then get access to like a woman's changing room.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And so my question was, why are people so comfortable spreading misinformation like what that person did? Because I mean, yeah, it like people are so comfortable hating on her that even the most minor thing that she does is framed as her being like insecure and controlling, and people are so comfortable misrepresenting
Okay, I want you to
what.
do something for me. Find out if she has ever posted, tweeted, or stated that if somebody puts their pronouns in their bio, that means they're insecure. I'm very curious about that. Or any comments she made about that. So you asked a question about why do people do this? Well, I mean, there's no single answer, but maybe this person doesn't even know that that's not true. That person might have heard it from somebody else and then repeats it. I mean, that's not a good way to go about finding information, but doesn't mean that that person knows that it's false. But I mean, the bottom line is people can get very big traction on social media for putting bullshit out there. I mean, we've talked about this before. So this part of it does connect to what we were talking about earlier with grifters, because people do what works for them. And so, even if they're not getting famous, they're maybe trying to. So that's one motivation. Another motivation might just be because they hate her. So they want to hurt her in some way. I mean, this type. I mean, it's ultimately just like, there's people that go on into their camps on these issues. And then anybody that's in their camp is good, and anybody that's not in their camp is bad. Right? So my position when it comes to trans is that I think it's a real phenomenon.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to say people. I'm not talking about cats. Right?
It was just a weird phrasing. My position when it comes to trans.
Yeah, because we're talking about trans people. I mean, it's obvious, right? But so listen, but let's just not go. Let's. Okay, I can't get into that right now. So my position is that this is a real phenomenon. There are people who sense that they're not born in the right body. I'm loath to call it mental illness because I'm not a big fan of the phrase mental illness to start with. Right? I don't like that. I'm not saying it's not real in some situations. I just don't like to really put that on there. I think that there's also some social contagion involved in that. I don't think that trans kids should be getting surgeries or irreversible procedures. I do think, though, that there's like hormone stuff that I would leave to doctors and parents because I understand that I don't know enough about it. Right? I am not an expert. I do not want me or the government making decisions for parents and their kids. I think that parents and doctors are in the best position to make those decisions when it comes to stuff that is reversible. Because if it's irreversible, then you can get into, well, maybe it's child abuse. You understand what I'm saying? So if it's irreversible, I think the government has a role in outlawing it. If it's reversible, I prefer parents and doctors make their decisions. When it comes to the bathroom situation that you're talking about, I think a lot of that would be solved if private companies and private sports leagues and private gyms made their own decisions. So if a private gym, for instance, says anybody can go in this bathroom, right? Or just women and trans women can go in this bathroom. Well, then women have a decision then where they could say, I'm not going to patronize that gym. I'm not going there. Or some people might say, this is the right decision. That's where I want to go. And vice versa for, trans men, women who identify as men and, men who are men. I think the same would be true for private schools. And, once you separate state from that stuff, a lot of the problem solves itself through markets. I do think that biological sex is irreversible, that a person who is born a man cannot literally become a woman. That's not the same thing as somebody saying they identify as a woman. Somebody can identify with whatever the hell they please. That really doesn't affect me much. I really don't care, but it doesn't make them that, and I'm not going to pretend it does. But at the same time, Persephone, if somebody tells me, look, I'm a guy and I want you to call me a she, I don't really give, I'm a guy, but I identify as a woman, call me she, I really don't care. Like, what the hell do I care? It's no sweat off my ass to say her.
It's not. I think this is part of what makes this conversation so frustrating for me, because if J.K. Rowling was like rabidly anti-trans and she wanted them all put in like internment camps, whatever, then it would be fine. But a man or a trans woman is trying to sue a gynecologist because the gynecologist wouldn't see them for a pap smear.
That's absurd.
Right? It's ridiculous. And I don't have a problem with like gender neutral bathrooms. Those exist in a lot of places. And if you want to use a gender neutral bathroom, go and use it. I don't have a problem with that. Most women don't have a problem with using gender neutral bathrooms. But why did I feel like a lot of what she says is pretty fair and is based around like protecting women's rights. Anyway, so in the thing that I sent to you, there were 3 questions. And one of the questions was, what's the relationship between believing someone is harmful and feeling licensed to misrepresent them? Because people do think, oh, well, because she has some shitty views, it's okay. I can say what I want because the end goal is that I don't want people to support J.K. Rowling, right? Therefore, I can say whatever I want. I can misrepresent what she says because it doesn't matter. The end, she's a shitty person. So, whatever I have to say to convince you that she's a shitty person is is
But
fine.
you're assuming that person knows those statements are false.
That's true.
The person
But
might
also,
think
if
she's a
you
shitty person because the person believes that. But either way, it's a commitment to truth that needs to be had here, right? Is we need to be so concerned with truth that we fact check things before we post them. So whether it's a lie or it's a belief that it's true, it's still malicious, right? Because you're trying to cause harm to this person, and you haven't done your due diligence or you're making it up. It's one or the other, right? So that's where it's incumbent on people, in my view, from an everyday ethical perspective, to know what the hell you're talking about and know what it is you're putting out there. And if you're not putting it out there, to understand when you read something like that, to fact check it. When you put that on the screen about the whatever the hell that person's name was, saying J.K. Rowling is said that it's an endorsement if you watch Harry Potter. The first thing that went into my head was, I hope Persephone fact checked this.
yeah, of course I did.
Right. So, but that's where people need to be. Is that we in an era, in an age where anybody and everybody can put whatever the hell they want on social media. You need to be diligent before you accept these things as true.
Especially because people often are not, they will just post stuff without saying, well, this is just my opinion or from what I've heard. Because if someone like prefixes something, what they say, with I've heard, or this has been going through my mind, then you sort of know that it's not based in facts. But so many people post things as though they're facts, and it's worse when there is like a little bit of truth in it, which is what most of them do as well. They take a tiny little bit of truth, which is, she does fund some charities which can have negative effects on trans people, I guess, if you want to squint. And then spin that into she's actively murdering trans children, which is just wild. Um, So here's the other thing that I said. People who share that tweet probably don't think of themselves as liars. They think the misrepresentation is downstream of a correct moral assessment. She's dangerous, so the specific claims don't need to be precise. And that's rationalization. You muted. And you're still muted.
No, I said I'm sorry. I know I'm muted. Yeah.
Oh,
So there were three questions that you had.
yes.
What I want my goal here is to try to bring all of this back to the subject of ethics. So my main point as to the first thing that you asked, I don't even remember what the question was, but it must be relevant to this discussion, is that we need to be careful in regard to both the information that we put out there and the information that we receive. That is the ethical thing to do, right? We don't want to be spreading bullshit, especially when it's about other people and their reputations. Does that make sense to you?
It does. So the one question was, what's the relationship between believing someone is harmful and feeling licensed to misrepresent them? But then the other question was, what does it cost a person epistemically to accept false claims about someone that they oppose?
What does
So
it
it's
cost
not,
them?
yeah, it's not about her specifically. It's about what happens to your own reasoning when you let that kind of misrepresentation slide. So someone who maybe knows what J.K. Rowling has done, disagrees with it, sees that tweet, knows that it's not true, but spreads it anyway because it's aimed at the right target. So what happens with your reasoning just in general?
If you're spreading that and you know it's
If you're
false,
Yeah.
well, it's not contaminating your mind in the sense of not understanding how to differentiate between fact and fiction, because you're saying the person knows it's false. But it's certainly a problem with the person's character that you're putting misinformation out there. You're trying to pretend things are other than they are in order to gain a value. You're trying to get something in this case, the obliteration or the destruction of, J.K. Rowling's
Career.
reputation, her career. So, whether, the fact that you value such a thing is screwed up, the fact that you're resorting to this is screwed up. It's more of an ethical issue than an epistemic one.
Yeah. If she's such a shitty person that you think that her career should be destroyed, then surely that should be based on facts. And then the facts about her should be enough to destroy her career. And there is no reason to make shit up. Surely.
Okay.
Yeah. It's sort of tied into grifting because I feel like there's a lot of people who build. I just dropped a magnet. There's a lot of people who build their audiences on this kind of spreading this
Yes.
kind of crap.
Yeah, well, that's part that can be the motivation. Is if you're talking, especially if you're talking about trans issues are huge.
Mm.
J.K. Rowling's huge. You start putting shit out there, and you're liable to get a lot of clicks. And then you could just do that all the time, and these people end up living in their own world. I mean, I see this all the time on X, and it's just this is the way it is, and they don't allow any information from outside of it.
I saw just the funniest thing when I was looking for other things that people had said about her. Someone tweeted that they, like, during Halloween had gone out and they didn't realize how many people, and this was the exact phrasing that they used, they didn't realize how many people weren't as terminally online as they were, because they ran into another group of like another couple of parents that were trick-or-treating with their children, and the children and the parents were both like all wearing Harry Potter costumes, and this person felt it necessary to go up to a person that they'd never met before and say, "Hey, so I'm just curious, like, why have you got your kids like dressed in Harry Potter costumes? Because don't you know that she's like evil?" And it was like, you've never met this person in your life, and they've got young children, and you thought that this was like the most valuable use of your time, which was just, and just the way that the fact that they phrased it as people aren't as terminally online as me. I'm like, if you can recognize that in yourself, if you recognize that your behavior is terminally online, why are you trying to bring people into that ridiculous mindset with you? Why?
Because they think everybody's already there.
No, but I mean, they acknowledged that this person wasn't, and that they
Yeah,
couldn't be as terminally online.
no, I get it, but when you live in that type of echo chamber, right? First of all, you're not everybody's online. Secondly, even people that are online likely aren't getting your feed, because your feed is algorithmed, if that's even a word, I don't know, but you get my point, for you, based on the things that you click and that you react to. So if you're obsessed with J.K. Rowling and trans issues, so every time you see it, you click it, that stuff seems like it's so common to you. To me, it's reminiscent of my grandmother. And no, it is, because my grandmother used to, all she did was lay in bed and watch the news all day long. Never went out, just sat there and watched TV, the news, and that sort of thing. And then she was always worried about me when I would leave the house. Now, if anything, I was the one other people needed to worry about, not me worrying about them. But she always tell me, you got to be careful, because in her world, it was a very dangerous place. And in this person's world that you're talking about, J.K. Rowling's this horrible person. Everybody knows it. So how don't you know it?
So, do you know what the phrase terminally online means?
Online till you die?
No. Okay, so this is an
I'm
important.
guessing it means always online, but
Yeah, but there's a really important distinction that it's not just always online.
well,
So
make the distinction, and then we got to wrap up because we got to get ready for the
terminally
next show.
terminally online describes people whose lives and perspectives are disproportionately dominated by internet culture. So, key indicators: echo chamber reliance, an inability to distinguish online sentiment from reality, often believing that niche online opinions represent the majority; constant consumption, an unrelenting need to consume, share, or engage with memes, Twitter discourse, online behavior; taking benign topics extremely seriously, leading to hostile arguments over trivial matters, or engaging in intense niche political debates; and a real world disconnection, a tendency to bring niche internet language um, into daily conversation; and virtual validation, prioritizing online approval and social media metrics over offline events. That's what terminally online means. And this person acknowledged that they were behaving in a terminally online way, and that not everybody, engaged in this like extreme
Hold on a second there,
validation
Persephone.
seeking. No,
You're,
that's what
I'm
terminally
not
online
saying, I
means.
don't disagree with you. What I'm saying is this person may not have known that's what it meant. Just because somebody uses a word doesn't mean they know what it means. That person could have heard that saying online.
That's I will grant you that, but terminally online has never meant
I
has
got
never
it.
meant anything good.
That's fine, but this person you saying is acknowledging as if they're acknowledging everything in the definition that you just read. But that's not a
That's
warranted assumption.
no, not maybe not everything, but they were acknowledging that this was a negative thing.
No, what they were acknowledging is that they're online a lot. That's what they're acknowledging at the best. I mean, really, we don't even know what she's acknowledging.
That's true. That's
because
true.
obviously this person isn't that bright, for starters. And now you're assuming that this person who's not bright, that neither one of us knows, understands the meaning of this term, terminally online. And when someone who am online all the time, didn't know what it meant.
Yeah, but you're not terminally online.
No.
You're online a lot, but you're not terminally online.
No, but I wouldn't have known what it meant. If you had said you're terminally online, all right, I wouldn't have cared. So you don't know that she knows it. What I do know is we now have 13 minutes before our next show starts. So we're going to wrap this one up. On this very channel, we are going to be discussing crime, corrections, and culture, the name of the show. And we're going to be discussing my book, Down the Rabbit Hole, How the Culture of Corrections Encourages Crime. That's going to be our first order of business coming up 3:15 p.m. Eastern Time, 13 minutes from now on this very channel. I promise it will be a good show. But for now, we will see you. Well, for those of you tuning in, we're going to see you in a few minutes. For those who are only watching this show, we'll see you tomorrow. But for now, and until then, and afterwards, please be ethical.